to another of the Iowa Lakes Corridor Development Corporation's videos to really discover the why for the corridor. As we celebrate Manufacturing Month and all of those things that go into manufacturing in the region, economic development regionally, and all of the partnerships that are in place, we're really excited to get to work with our partners, and today we're talking with Nate Wittmaack at Ranco Fertiservice. Nate is also a board member of ours at the Iowa Lakes Corridor, so we're really excited to have him in today. So Nate, talk to us a little bit about Ranco. Introduce yourself, introduce the company, and tell us a little bit about the history in the corridor.
Yeah, so I'm Nate Wittmaack with Ranco Fertiservice, as you've said. We've been incorporated in Sioux Rapids since 1961. Started out as kind of a brainchild idea of building a new type of dry fertilizer blend system. That idea kind of developed into more in-plant equipment, so we've developed our product line over the last 61 years, I guess now, to really be kind of a one-stop shop for dry fertilizer blending and handling equipment. And we do business all over the U.S., internationally as well. We're very active in Canada, a lot of equipment in Australia, and we've put systems in Africa and a lot in Europe as well. So had really good success in that market.
Mm-hmm. One of the things that we really like to look at with Ranco as an example is how the company takes care of the community. Can you talk a little bit about that? So
being really a part of the community has been kind of one of the core principles of Ranco really since the early days. It goes back to one of the founders, Paul Kreil, who owned the company up until 2011 when he passed away. And he had a really strong sense of hometown and felt that Sioux Rapids was a really special place, and the whole kind of area in general. So he led that really feeling for Ranco, and that kind of embedded itself in our culture from the start. So yeah, we try to go out of our way where we can. We tend to get asked to help with this and help with that. I think one of the interesting things we do every year is we help the city of Sioux Rapids get the swimming pool ready. So we have a fiberglass department at Ranco, and it's a fiberglass pool. So we send the guys there, or the team there, not guys, but the fiberglass team there to work on any sort of repairs that need to be done. I think we've painted it a few years, so that's one of our yearly trips in town to try to help get that going. But it's things like that, and encouraging the employee base to be connected to the communities, to participate in any sort of non-Ranco related group activities, whether it's EMT or whether it's fire, city council, school board membership, all of that stuff. We really encourage our employees and our team to be a part of in the community as much as they can.
So you mentioned the past owner who has passed, and one of the assets, I believe, of the company is the ESOP structure and that offering for the employees. Talk a little bit about how that came about with the transition.
Yeah, it's an interesting story because Paul had such a strong, I guess, sense of community and desire that Ranco remain strong and steadfast in Sioux Rapids there. When he passed and he left Ranco to his sons, one of them bought the other out, and Jeff Kreil owned the company for a few years there, and decided that it would be best for him to divest the company. He had multiple offers to sell the company sort of to the outside world, you could say. Mm-hmm. And rather than do that, and probably at some risk to himself in terms of maybe not getting top market value, he chose to offer the company to the employees. So we were able to go through the process of the ESOP buying the company from Jeff, and then offering that as an ownership structure to our team. So at this point, we're a 100% ESOP company.
Very neat. So what makes the corridor the location of choice for Ranco?
Yeah, I think Of course, we started in Cedar Rapids.
Yeah,
we remain in Cedar Rapids. So, and maybe the question is better. Why wouldn't you consider relocating maybe to some place with larger population or more accessibility to components or raw materials or whatever. Really, it's the community. It's the idea that we're part of that community. We like the small town values. We believe that transcends not only just our own organization, but when we deal with our customers, who some of them are very similar to us in terms of being relatively small organizations. We can find a lot of connection points with those folks, and when it comes to working with large companies, it's a relationship business, so you still get to form those relationships, and the kind of small town culture, hard work mentality that we have here, just naturally, it ends up solidifying those relationships by doing what you say you're going to do.
Right. So as someone that is from the area and was away for a while, you've chosen to come back. Talk to us a little bit about your decision to return to this area.
Sure. So, I actually grew up just outside of Sioux Rapids, between Sioux Rapids and Rembrandt, and graduated from Sioux Central, so right there in Sioux Rapids, and really enjoyed my time there, being younger. But when it came time to go to college, I decided to go to University of Northern Iowa in Cedar Falls. A little bigger area, still not a huge city, but much more metropolitan than what I grew up in. And I graduated there in 2004. And my wife and I chose to stay there in Cedar Falls for a few years with really no specific intent to come home necessarily. It was kind of indeterminate what we were going to do, didn't have a real strong plan. But when we started our family in 2008 with our first son, we started to do some pretty significant reflection on, how we grew up, the sort of people we were around, the community that we were plugged into, and we had plenty of friends in Cedar Falls, but in thinking and reflecting on that, both my wife and I, who's from Peterson, so another corridor community, we really couldn't think of a better place in America where we would like to grow up, or where we would like to have our kids grow up, and we thought it was our responsibility to give them that same opportunity. So that was the primary driver to bring us back to the area. Thankfully, we were able to find good employment here, and I got on with Ranco right away, so I've been there since. And that was the main driver for us. Is it didn't hurt also that we had two sets of grandparents here to help with the kids. So.
Exactly. So your message to others that are considering returning home, not sure that they're really ready for that rural, what's your message?
Yeah, it's just really unique in that being plugged in and getting, I guess, as involved as you want to be really quickly is an opportunity here. And if you want to be involved in a community and find a place where you can, both probably see people that you grew up with, but meet new people. It's a very open and welcoming area. It's a beautiful area. We have tremendous recreational opportunities around here, good industry. And it's a great fit for those of us that don't necessarily want to drive, an hour of traffic to go 5 or 6 miles. This is a lot nicer. Agree.
So let's transition a little bit to the Corridor Board and your involvement. So prior to being asked to come into the Corridor leadership team, what was your perspective on the Corridor?
Yeah, I'll admit I'm still a little bit in an educating phase for myself. Been aware of the of the Corridor and its work here, and really enjoyed the idea that there's an organization out there that's actively working to bring people to the area, bring people back to the area, to facilitate business operations around the Corridor, and that kind of whole idea was really enticing to me, and I think it's important that we have that here. And being in Ranco for a number of years before being specifically a part of the Corridor Board, we've had a lot of Ranco has had quite a bit of presence in the corridor and the organization. Pat Reno, our previous president, was on the board of directors for a number of years, and she spoke very highly of the organization. So I thought it would be a really good opportunity to get plugged in and try to lend my limited perspective to what you guys are doing here.
Great. So we've asked in some other conversations, we like to talk a little bit about vision. So as you talk about your company's vision and the growth that you guys are imagining for yourselves, how do you see that in partnership with the corridor?
Yeah, I think the most important thing, and you touched on it when you asked about my path, I think is just encouraging those, especially those that have left the area, that were here, and we're welcoming them, and we would love to see them back in the area, and doing whatever we can to put those things in place that people are looking for when they're trying to settle down for their lives, and really bringing people into the area. Part of course, my perspective from an employer standpoint is it's difficult to staff sometimes, and so one of the things that I think is going to be important for the corridor in general is to really try to do what we can do to put amenities in place that are going to bring people to the area, and not just cross it off because it doesn't have X, Y, and Z. So I think marketing those things that we do have and pursuing some of the stuff that might fill in those gaps, I think, is an important thing for us in the future.
Right. I would agree. So the tough question. If you just get one word to describe the corridor, what would that be?
Hometown.
Nice.
Hometown.
We love that.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for your time. You have really interesting perspective in company leadership, being someone that's returned that workforce component, and certainly the board engagement. So we appreciate the time and the partnership with Ranco, and thanks for coming in.
Well, thank you, Shannon.